Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Coco here with Devil's Advocado from Evil Guacamole Gaming, and we're continuing Cupid. Let's go past this line that gave us lots to talk about.
Let's see. I think then we're on. If you don't want to be touched, then you don't have to be. Oh, aren't you merciful, me? Do you understand this?
I understand
I've
that
played
you're a
enough Super
prick.
Nintendo. I've played enough Super Nintendo RPGs to know that saying no just means he's gonna repeat this.
But I'm weak.
Says who?
His eyes were humorless.
The world cares not for people who think of themselves as victims, Rosa. If you need power, then be powerful. To have it, it is necessary to crush things along the way.
Rosa flinched under the weight of his stare. She realized that the polite and courteous Regem was but a facet.
Facade. It doesn't look like it, but that's facade.
Oh, okay. Thank you. It was still him, but it was nothing but an oil portrait, an artwork of his devising. Synthetic, aloof, and irrelevant, it couldn't capture his essence in a few human strokes. Suddenly, Rosa realized he was powerful. Who are you? She caught herself before saying it out loud. You are not Guijem. And yet, he spoke to her as if he knew what it was like to hurt and to fear.
If you don't start acting like your own yourself, like you own yourself, then people will not hesitate to take everything.
He laid out the rest of the books he had brought out. One was an activity book for children. It had a picture of a child holding an apple with an arrow stuck in it. Another was a book of limericks. The other two were thicker books that intimidated her. She would come to know them as Hamlet and Paradise Lost. But the other one that caught her eye was an ornately designed book. It had a beautiful red jacket with a delicate gold trimmings lining the corners. The gods and goddesses of Roman mythology. This would be her favorite book, her treasure, and she knew it like love at first sight. That doesn't exist.
Which means she didn't know it at all. These books are yours. Take them with you. Read the thin ones first, and then gradually build your vocabulary with the thicker ones.
Rosa ran her hands over the skin of the red book. She opened the cover gingerly, as if carefully unwrapping a present. Thank you.
No thanks needed. I simply showed you some books from a portion of the library you were unaware of.
You're still so generous, even if you are like this.
Like what?
That.
Well, whatever are you talking about?
Somewhat irritable? Guijem didn't reply, leaving an awkward silence lingering between them. Then he gave a giant laugh that made Rosa jump out of her skin.
I do look damn irritable, don't I?
Why? Is it because of Emily? Guijem's eyes drifted away.
No. I've always been. You just pointed it out.
But you are not usually like this. Especially with Catherine and the townspeople.
I find it easy to adapt to people, especially to the ones I like.
Guillem looked at Rosa as if he had just become aware of her presence.
Makes me wonder why I am so stern with you. I am so sorry.
Rosa shook her head. I somehow prefer this side of you. Guillem cocked his head to the side. He brought out the green book that Rosa noticed earlier.
This is called a live journal. What? Sorry. When you learn to write, start one.
What is it?
Something you can use to remember yourself when you've forgotten. You can look back at 10 years ago and realize
Cringe.
that you were really kind of a drunk. It is weird.
You were an even bigger
This
weeaboo than
isn't
you are now.
this isn't me talking about my actual life and looking back at my actual
Oh
live
no,
journal from 10
no.
years ago.
Cringe at all the terrible fanfic you wrote. Your pairing sucked back then. Does it work?
My pairings have always been amazing. I'm sorry.
I can take pride in the fact that right now my main ship is a cat and a shrimp.
What, a cat and a shrimp?
Yes.
What? Like, I totally can buy it, just I don't know what from.
I'll discuss that after we finish. It's a fandom that is definitely not for everyone, and with good reason. Does it work?
It used to. Nowadays, not anymore. The servers are crap.
And
I
yeah,
don't know.
they shat all over the role players too. Openly mocked them. Oh,
The act itself is the only thing I remember. Now, let's start with your vowels.
a scream pierced the halls of the chateau. It was Catherine. Guillem sprinted to the door with Rosa not far behind. Back in the piano room, Catherine took a shaky step towards her sister. She wasn't moving at all. Blood dotted the ivory keys.
I didn't. It was an accident. Uh, Emily?
She was overcome with the urge to approach her sister and shake her awake. Make sure she was okay, but it was a nasty fall.
Emily?
Catherine saw the way her sister's head snapped back as it collided with the sharp corner of the piano. She watched it all like a series of photographs in her head. She had to check on her, but her feet refused to move. Instead, she began to retreat into a corner. She didn't even notice her legs were moving until her forehead touched the wall. She didn't want to turn around. Her sister was on the floor. Her eyes were still open, unblinking.
It was an accident. It was nothing but an accident. Was it? She pushed first. She got really scary. She strangled me. What? That's absurd. Are you sure? Would she do that? I don't know. I think she did.
Catherine touched her throat. It felt fine.
The Periode girl. Emily, is it? She really believes just because the Marquis took her in that he's interested in her? Well, she's obsessed with the master. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Wasn't her mother a bit, you know, cuckoo caca head? It probably runs in the family.
Amelie had looked mad. Her eyes had burned with malice for her as she had closed her fingers around Catherine's neck. But she couldn't remember if that had really happened. Sister was always kind to her. She would never, ever hurt her, even when they got into fights. Sister loved her.
Am I turning mad? I have the blood of madwoman. Am I going to end up like her? I only told her the truth. Guillerme doesn't care for her, and she doesn't even care for him that much either. It was all just chafe, their relationship. No sense trying to make everyone else miserable too, but she called me jealous and a cunt. She has never called me, cunt. She said they have decided to send me away. My lessons sent home, the piano replaced. It was for my own good, she said. I don't have to travel here all the time. I can concentrate on my other endeavors. I can make new friends. But I know she just doesn't want me near the Chichuyu or Guillerme. She hates it when I catch her with him. Perhaps this morning was the last straw. She hates it, but she also smirks at me when I see them. It's like she basks in it. I might hate her.
Catherine's thoughts ran through her head like a storm. They poured out of her aimlessly.
I wonder if the piano is broken. Am I going to pay for it? Will Father have to sell his horse again? What will become of us without Sister's wages? What of Father's medicine? What of my dreams? Sister can't be dead. Sister can't be dead.
Catherine brought her fingers to her lips and nibbled on her thumb. She didn't notice this. Her mind was preoccupied. She was in her corner of the wall, biting her fingers. It was a tiny comfort in a rapidly collapsing world. Guijem opened the door and found Amelie lying on the floor. An ugly gash broke the skin of her forehead. Facing the wall was Catherine, shivering like a leaf and viciously devouring one of her fingernails. He approached her cautiously.
Catherine.
Rosa was out of breath, but was still able to let out a gasp at the scene. Amelie's lifeless eyes stared up at nothing while Catherine pressed herself into a corner. What had happened after she left?
Rosa, will you call for help, please? See that someone checks on Emily.
Rosa did as she was told, but what she really wanted to do was hug Catherine herself. Guijem took a small step toward her. He called out her name slowly, coaxingly. Catherine turned her head, her thumb still on her lower lip. The flesh was torn and a smudge of scarlet painted her teeth.
It was an accident. I swear. Of course it was, Catherine. Of course it was. She pushed me first. She wanted me sent away. She wanted me gone. You can tell me about it later. Let me take you away from this room. What have I done?
Catherine fell to her knees and wept, Large sobs sucked the air out of her. She felt like drowning, trying to keep herself afloat in between sobs. Every exhale was a squeezing pain in her lungs. She felt Guijem's arms wrap around her.
What have I done? What have I done? You didn't do anything, my cherry. Ma cherry. This is not your fault.
There was a bitter bulge building up in her throat, and she felt that no amount of crying could push it back down.
What am I going to do? Father is... Sister, I'm so scared.
Guijem's arms wound tighter around her, and she clutched onto his warmth in the vast sea of fear.
You don't have to be. I will always be by your side. Catherine, I will take care of you and your father. All right? You don't have to worry about your future.
Her tears soaked his shirt through, but the squeezing in her chest felt less painful.
Why? Why do you do this? Why do you care so much for me?
Guijem's brows furrowed, as if confused that she even asked.
Like I just do.
It was a boldly stated fact, as if painfully obvious, as if Catherine was a fool for not knowing it. It made Catherine's heart expand in her ribs. When she looked back, she would recall this as the moment she fell in love with him. Or that maybe she thought she fell in love with him.
Ah.
The look in his eyes was reassuring and strong. She wasn't alone. She was going to be alright. I imagine that the incredible gratitude she feels for his understanding and comfort is probably what makes her feel that way. Yeah.
It can be a powerful force in the concept of love and romance.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get you away from here.
He supported her arms and stood her up, careful to block the view of her sister from her eyes. He led her to the door. Catherine hated how fast her relief came. She was still drenched in sorrow at her sister's death. Her father would not take well to the news, especially in his health. But she was all right, and she hated it. Rosa was with her. She didn't have to leave her piano, her dreams, him. Nothing had to change. And most importantly, she hated the voice that came whispering in her head over and over again.
Thank goodness she's dead. Thank goodness. Mom talking in her head too. The first candle is lit. Oh.
Go ahead.
Yeah. This may be Mom. The first candle is lit. This candle is Storge. Hi, Storge. The love for familiars. The cleanest love.
Rosa stared at the blue candle glowing in her hand as she chanted her spell.
Trust is the veil that conceals and deceives. Trick his eyes and his heart with the warmth from this candle's flame. A bond of blood like kin will be forged. Weave this trust so his tongue will yield to what is sought.
Indeed. And this is where I left off. And this is a good spot to end this episode as well. So thank you guys for joining us.
Farewell.
No!
Then why are you here?
Then get out of here! I didn't order you!
I ordered a pizza.
No, he ordered fly honey. He just said so.
Fly honey pizza.
Yeah. Oh god. We're crying. Oh no, he's calling for help.
Oh jeez.
Well, now his friend is gonna die too. I hope he's happy.
These guys are pretty annoying.
No one came.
What? Why didn't any of my friends come?
You have no friends.
Well, he doesn't have friends and they are all dead.
Yeah.